Welcome back to Room 44, your sanctuary of mystery and suspense. Tonight, dim the lights, relax, and let yourself drift into the chilling story of the Silent Watcher. So settle in comfortably, close your eyes, and let the shadows tell their secrets. My name is Emma, and I live in one of those suburbs people usually describe as idyllic. Tree-lined streets, friendly neighbors, and neatly manicured lawns stretching out in every direction. I bought my house 5 years ago, a modest 2-bedroom property perfect for someone like me, a quiet introvert who prefers the peace of solitude. I had a simple routine: work at the local library, dinner alone, maybe a cup of tea before bed, always winding down with a book until my eyes grew heavy. Life felt predictable, comforting, and safe, until the night everything changed. It was a dreary Tuesday evening, the rain tapping rhythmically on my windshield as I pulled into my driveway. My porch light was off, which was unusual. I always left it on. Shaking my head at the likely burnt-out bulb, I stepped out into the rain. As soon as my foot touched the pavement, a chill swept over me, one that had nothing to do with the weather. At first, I didn't understand what made me so uneasy. Then, as my eyes adjusted to the dim lighting, I saw footprints, fresh, muddy tracks leading along the side of my house toward the backyard. My heart skipped, a sudden jolt of anxiety surging through me. Maybe it was a delivery? But at night, in the rain, with no package at my door? Doubt gnawed at me. Cautiously, I followed the tracks around the side of my house. The gate to the backyard was slightly ajar, creaking softly with the breeze. The darkness beyond felt oppressive, thick with tension. I hesitated but pushed forward. My backyard, usually a peaceful retreat with a small garden and a wooden bench beneath a maple tree, now seemed unfamiliar and sinister. I pulled my phone out, turning on its flashlight. The beam sliced through the night, illuminating wet grass and rain-slicked leaves, but nothing more. "Hello?" My voice trembled slightly. "Is someone there?" Only the patter of raindrops answered. My heart pounding in my ears, I convinced myself it was nothing, just nerves from a long day. I hurried back inside, locking the doors behind me. Inside, the warm glow of my living room lamps offered some comfort, but the uneasy feeling lingered, refusing to dissipate. I poured myself tea, my fingers trembling slightly, hoping its warmth would chase away the lingering dread. Settling onto the couch, I tried losing myself in a novel, but my mind kept wandering. After a few minutes, a sudden instinct made me glance toward my living room window, drawn inexplicably by an unsettling feeling. Across the street, beneath the street lamp, stood a figure. Still, unmoving, watching my house. Fear tightened my chest. I froze, book dropping softly onto the floor, forgotten. Who was this? A neighbor? But something told me otherwise. Gripping my phone tightly, I dialed the police, whispering urgently about the stranger. "He's just standing there, watching." "Stay inside," the dispatcher instructed calmly. "Help is on the way." Those minutes dragged painfully. My eyes remained locked on the figure, silently pleading for the arrival of the police. Stillness stretched endlessly, the silhouette unwavering beneath the street lamp's pale glow. Finally, sirens shattered the quiet. The flashing lights of the patrol car washed over my street, illuminating the figure momentarily. In that fleeting brightness, I saw nothing distinguishable, just dark clothing and a hood hiding their face. And then, abruptly, the figure melted away into the night. The officers knocked gently, reassuring me, taking notes. They found nothing, of course, no footprints aside from mine, no lingering trace of the stranger. They advised me to lock my doors, call again if anything else happened, and left quietly. But sleep eluded me that night, every creak and groan of my house amplifying my anxiety. Who had been standing there, watching, and why? Days turned into weeks, and slowly my anxiety dulled, though never vanished entirely. But deep down, I knew the silent watcher was still out there, hidden somewhere in the shadows, waiting. The thought haunted every quiet night thereafter, leaving me to wonder if I'd ever truly feel safe again.
You're tuned into Room 44, where reality blurs with the darkness. If you're enjoying tonight's story, please gently tap the like button. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and turn on notifications for more soothing yet spine-chilling tales. Now, breathe deep, relax, and let's continue our journey into the darkness. Story 2. My name's Ethan, and for 3 years, I worked the night shift at a small gas station off Highway 27. It wasn't much, just a dusty, lonely outpost surrounded by thick trees and the occasional truck stop. The kind of place where time seemed to slow down after midnight. There were long stretches of silence where nothing moved except the flicker of the overhead lights and the steady hum of the refrigerators. Most nights were uneventful. I'd clean the coffee machine, stock the shelves, and scroll through my phone to stay awake. Every so often, a tired trucker or a local would come in for gas or a late-night snack. That was my world. Quiet, predictable. Until one night in early November when everything changed. It was around 2:15 a.m., cold, windy, and dead quiet. I was standing behind the counter, sipping lukewarm coffee, watching the security monitor. That's when I saw it. A dark van pulling up, but oddly it stopped just outside the camera's frame. It was the first time I'd ever seen someone intentionally park out of sight. I leaned forward, squinting at the screen. The van's headlights turned off, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then a man stepped out. He was tall, wearing a hoodie pulled low over his face. He didn't come toward the building. He just stood there, half shrouded in shadow, staring. My gut twisted. Something was wrong. I tapped the glass window, trying to get a better look, but he didn't move. Just stood there like he was waiting for something. Or someone. Minutes ticked by. The air felt heavy and my nerves started to fray. I could feel my fingers trembling as I set down the coffee cup. Eventually, I pushed the door open and stepped outside. "Can I help you?" I called, trying to sound confident. The man didn't respond. He raised his hand slowly, one finger over his lips, then backed up and disappeared into the van. I went back inside, locked the door, and checked the cameras again. The van was still there, engine idling, but no one got out. I picked up the phone and called the sheriff's department. They said someone would be by soon. 10 minutes passed, then 15. The van was still idling when I looked up from the register, and that's when I heard the click. It came from the back. "There's a rear entrance to the station. Employees only, always locked." I crept to the back room and flicked on the hallway lights. The door was cracked open just an inch, but enough for the cold night air to creep in. My breath caught in my throat. I knew I had locked that door. I knew it. I grabbed the baseball bat we kept behind the counter and stepped carefully toward the hallway. Each creak of the floorboards echoed in my ears like gunshots. I checked the bathrooms, the stockroom, the freezer, empty. But I knew someone had been there. The mop bucket had shifted. A roll of toilet paper was unspooled halfway across the bathroom floor. I could feel it in the air, like a static charge crawling across my skin. Then something made my blood run cold. I went back to the monitor and rewound the back hallway feed. For just a second, barely a second, I saw movement. A shadow slipping silently behind a shelf just before I entered the hallway. Just then, the sound of tires skidding snapped me back. I ran out front just in time to see the van peeling off down the road. When the sheriff's deputy arrived 15 minutes later, he did a walkthrough but found nothing. No fingerprints, no sign of forced entry, nothing on the footage except me and the man briefly standing in the shadows. Except, I never showed him that shadow behind the shelf. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't want him to think I was losing it. Or maybe part of me didn't want to believe it was real. That was the last time I worked a night shift alone. I quit 2 weeks later. I still don't know what they wanted. But every so often I dream about that van, about the silence, about the click of the door, and about the moment I realized I wasn't alone that night, not by a long shot.
Story 3. My name is Claire, and I've never been the type to believe in anything irrational. I'm logical, practical. I work in clinical research, which means I'm used to examining things from all angles, ruling out anomalies, and seeking data-driven answers. But there are things data can't explain, and one of those things happened to me at cabin number 7. It started as a weekend getaway. My boyfriend Jake and I needed a break. City life was burning us out, and we both wanted something peaceful. Somewhere we could unplug, disconnect, breathe. We found this place online, Whispering Pines Retreat. The pictures looked serene. Wooden cabins tucked into a forest in New England, a little lake, some hiking trails. The reviews were glowing, and cabin number 7 was available. When we arrived, it was everything we hoped for. Tall pine trees surrounded the narrow gravel road. The air smelled like wet bark and fresh earth, and the cabins were spaced out just enough to feel secluded. Ours was the last one on the path, set farther back than the others, shadowed by dense trees. Jake thought it was perfect. I did too at first. It had a small porch, a wood-burning fireplace, and one of those clawfoot tubs I'd always dreamed of. But something about the place felt off, just slightly. Like the silence in the woods was too deep, like the cabin hadn't been used in a while, despite being available and well-reviewed. That first night, we lit the fire, opened a bottle of wine, and cooked dinner. It was peaceful, cozy even. But I woke up around 2:43 a.m. to a scratching sound. It was light, barely audible, like fingernails against wood. Jake was asleep, snoring softly. I sat up, listening. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It was coming from the back of the cabin, the window behind the bed. I got up and peeked through the curtain. Nothing, just trees swaying in the breeze, moonlight filtering through the branches. I told myself it was probably an animal, a raccoon, maybe a branch moving in the wind. I climbed back into bed and forced myself to sleep. But the next morning, when we stepped outside to have coffee on the porch, I noticed something. Footprints, human footprints, bare feet, in the dirt below the window, leading from the woods to the side of the cabin. Jake tried to brush it off. Someone probably wandered through last night, maybe a drunk hiker or something. But they didn't lead back into the woods. They stopped right at the wall of the cabin, as if whoever it was had just stood there, watching us. The second night, I made sure every window was locked. I pulled the heavy curtains shut. We played cards by the fire until we were tired. Jake drifted off quickly, but I couldn't relax. I kept listening. And again, at 2:43 a.m. on the dot, I heard the scratching. This time it was louder, more deliberate, not like an animal, more like someone dragging their nails slowly along the wood. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, stepping softly toward the back of the cabin. Jake stirred but didn't wake. I hesitated by the back window, heart racing, and slowly pulled the curtain. Nothing, again, but I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up, sitting by the fire, gripping the bat we found in the closet. The next morning, Jake went for a hike while I stayed behind. I wanted to clear my head. That's when I decided to explore the surrounding area a bit. There was an old maintenance shed behind the cabins, partially hidden by bushes. I figured it might belong to the retreat. Curiosity got the better of me. I pried the door open and stepped inside. It smelled like mildew and old wood. Dust floated in the slivers of sunlight breaking through the gaps in the walls. Then I saw it. A wall covered in photographs, printed photos, all taped or pinned to the wood, all taken at night. They were all of people, couples, alone, inside cabins, unaware they were being watched. My stomach twisted as I saw one of the pictures. Me, sleeping, from the night before. My face half buried in a pillow. Jake next to me turned away. I stumbled back, nearly knocking over a pile of crates. My hands were shaking. My breath came in gasps. I backed out of the shed, slammed the door, and ran. When Jake returned, I was frantic. I told him everything. He didn't believe me, not at first. He thought I was imagining things, until I dragged him to the shed and showed him. The photos were gone. The wall was bare. I couldn't believe it. I swear they were there. I wasn't losing my mind. Jake was spooked, but still didn't want to leave. "Let's just stay one more night," he said. "We'll lock the place up tight. Nothing's going to happen." I agreed reluctantly. That night, we didn't light the fire. We kept all the lights on. We slept in shifts. Jake took the first half of the night, sitting in the armchair with the bat. I tried to sleep. But again, 2:43 a.m., Jake shook me awake. "Claire," he whispered. "Someone's outside." I sat up. The scratching was louder than ever. It was no longer just at the back. It was at the side, then the front, like someone circling the cabin. Then came the knock. One slow knock, right at the front door. Jake motioned for me to stay quiet. He crept to the window beside the door and peeked out. He went pale. "What?" I mouthed. He didn't answer, just backed away slowly. I looked out myself. There was a man, naked, pale, filthy, standing completely still in the moonlight, staring at the door. His arms were covered in scratches. His face was blank, hollow, dead. Jake whispered, "We need to run, now." We grabbed our bags and bolted through the back door, sprinting through the woods. I didn't look back. I couldn't. Branches whipped at my face. I could hear footsteps behind us, more than one set. We ran until we reached the main road. We flagged down a passing car, babbling like lunatics. The police never found anything. No photos, no footprints, nothing. But I know what I saw. I know someone was watching us. And I know that cabin number 7 is still there, waiting for the next couple to come looking for peace and quiet. Thank you for joining me in room 44. Remember, sometimes the quietest neighborhoods hold the darkest secrets. Sleep peacefully if you can, knowing room 44 is always here with another story, another whisper from the dark. I'll be waiting for you, right here, in the shadows.